It's time for another video. Hello, everyone. Hello. I know the intro was fantastic. I came up with it myself on the spot. Oh my God, this hair! It's absolutely fabulous, isn't it? No, I'm so happy to have all of you here today. I'm still getting used to this. Well, whatever. I can just take it off. Hello, everyone. Freedom, yes. It is I, your host. Hello, everyone. Hello, my lords, my ladies, my gentlemen, my women, my, majors, esteemed warlords of pride and magic. I want to say hello to all the knights, hello to all of the wizards, the witches, the pelicans, or whatever you call yourselves. And of course, my rats. Hello and welcome to another video, to another recording. I am here, your host, Mediophile, coming to you from beyond the grave. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, hold on. Oh my God, it's already hot in this. Look, the amount of suffering that I do for you, for all of you. And you know what? You absolutely deserve it because you are more than kings. You are more than ladies. You are more than mages. You are gods. Like myself. To ants, anyway. We might as well be gods to ants. But no, so I'm here simply to come to you with another sort of perspective on certain things. Recently, I am sort of a part of a coven. Sort of thing. I was like, look, I need to know how the mages in this room operate, how the witches operate in this room. Yes, it is a general neutral term for, witches, or I guess practitioners of magic, and of certain religions that are associated with magic. But I don't really want to get into that whole sort of debate. It's all semantics, really. I mean, it is what it is. When they were looking in the wild for witches, they were looking for anyone who was practicing, divine arts or even dark arts, mostly. Whether or not they were, communing with the great Lord or with Satan. It's usually always the latter. But no, it's mostly myth. Not saying that there aren't those that do worship the dark one. Not in my realm. He's not really a thing in my realm. But, we have sort of synonyms for what could pass off as an evil spirit. But, going into that, this video is going to be discussing, I believe, spirits in general. It was a whole thing before. And so what I noticed is that within the covenant, the group of people that I have joined, mostly through, research purposes primarily, it was to sort of understand how it is they live their lives within their world, so to speak, within their practice. You have other ones that I believe identify as Wiccans, other ones as green witches, other ones as black ones, white ones, all of those things. But what was interesting though is that a few of them were to ask, well, what sort of God do you worship? What sort of spirit do you sort of have as your patron? Everything else. I, of course, responded, Pahalu, of course, the most divine, the most noble, the most powerful of spirits. The highest spirits, after all. And so I am but a servant of Pahalu's great will. So I am here to simply speak to you on the matter of spirits. However, what prompted this on was not really just going through there. Hello, Rings. It was sort of because I was talking to a copy that I made of myself because I get bored from time to time and I need someone else to talk to. And because no one else is sent in this world or this whole entire planet, I have to talk to myself, apparently. The people back home are closed-minded. They don't understand what I'm doing here. Half the time, I have to always ignore the calls I'm getting from my mother and from my grandmother, specifically. And that is something that I am really trying to embrace. Look, I'm just simply on a path right here. I'm trying to figure myself out. I am in the mundane world, still trying to perform certain tasks that were quite easier from the realm I come from, the realm of the magical. Not so much the mundane, which is where we are right now. But I sure hope that everything that I've speaking to you, everything that I've taught you so far is going into your minds. And so all of these sort of topics can be quite elaborate, and there can be something of, sort of curiosities, and frankly, they can change from time to time. Please allow that. Like I said, these sort of things are just coming from the ether, coming from my realm, coming from Divine Pahalu's realm into my mind. I am channeling mana through my body from the earth because the earth is being charged with mana. The earth has mana. I want to do a whole thing beforehand, how mana got here, with things like Titans and everything else, which I hope you watch. It was It was rather quite nice. I watch my videos because you have to watch yourself in order to improve yourself. This is good for whether you're trying to master your speech. This is good for whether you're trying to master your sort of poise, your position, your pose, as it were, to come across as a person of authority, a person of knowledge and power. So, with that said, what I'm going to be discussing to you, I believe the inherent, dangers of communing with certain spirits, knowing which spirits I believe are in your favor. Believe it or not, there are positive and negative spirits. Such as the energy exists, such are the beings that create that specific type of energy, and the beings that sort of gravitate to that energy as well. Whether or not we are hubs of this magical energy, of this manner, of what we do in our private time practicing or communing. And there are other people that perhaps don't have anything of that sort involved in their lives, especially in their craft. However, there are those of us like myself who we rely upon the help of spirits because they are hubs of magical energy. They are essentially the source of mana, and they sort of imbue the world as they come in with their mana. And so certain areas, whether they be positively or negatively charged, are all affected by these spirits. That is why it's important for us to understand, to come to an agreement. And yes, there can be room for debate because these sort of things can be kind of heated. It sort of borders along the lines of religion. All religions, in a sense, deal with some sort of, a spiritual focus. Something that is beyond the corporeal form. Something that is beyond our natural understanding of how life works, of how the other life works. And there's a life that we are here together, experiencing one another, learning how to live with one another as we ourselves are spirits. But I got into that subject mostly because I was trying to figure out ways of how we absorb mana and where mana comes from. It is sort of a good segue from mana to jump into, I believe, its source of mana. And yes, this can be debated, and you're welcome to debate in the comments. You're welcome to post all of your wrong opinions in the comments. Like I said, this is a channel of freedom. This is a channel of acceptance. And there are certain things you have to accept, like differences. There are differences of opinions, differences of seeing points of view in regards to our world and in regards to other worlds that perhaps even I may not know about. So, with that said, I wanted to, preface something beforehand. When I was thinking about spirits, it was because I was sort of thinking about the sources of mana and how there's so many people that are affected by mana and the different types of mana. Now, you would say, well, media, what sort of different types of mana are there? And if you ask any person that is knowledgeable in things like magic, in the practice of magic, or perhaps in mana or in spirits or anything like that, people that are aware of these sort of things, they would say that there are sort of different types of elements. And within those elements are different types of mana. However, I will say this. There are probably some of you that think all the elements are different. You're wrong. There are many people who think that the mana is different. Technically, you're correct, but ultimately you are wrong. You see, you have to understand that mana works within the sphere that it is created in. This world and the laws that govern it govern mana to a certain degree. When you think about how the world was formed, whether you believe in, the more cultish aspects, religious aspect, non-fictional aspects in terms of science and everything else, you can't deny that the world is here. How it was made is irrelevant, okay? These sort of things are mostly up to people who I believe I don't know. I honestly don't know why you're trying to think about something that happened thousands of years ago. Probably because people are trying to, sort of impose their beliefs. And yes, scientists have their beliefs as well that they try to impose upon us because they claim that they know what happened over millennia when they weren't even here and when science wasn't even a big thing. There is, hello, spider in the ceiling. Don't interrupt me. I'm recording something. Why is it coming closer? I don't know. Maybe it wants to be part of the thing. I can actually wait to tell. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hello. How are? Oh, you're one of those spiders. I see. Well, make sure you keep your distance, love. I'm over here trying to record a video. Hi. Hold on. Spider cam. Can you see it? It's up there. There it is. You thought I was lying, didn't you? No, I am completely honest. I am being 110% honest with all of you. Hold on. Yes, that's much better. Focus on me, please. I need to get a cameraman. I'm going to I'm going to invite a construct. His name is going to be named Phil. I'm going to have Phil come in and sort of do some recordings with me. Brace yourselves. Phil is quite shy, but I believe it knows what it's doing. So, back to the subject. So when it came to things like manna, and spirits will tie into this, the world was made whole. Whatever made the world made it, debates. And so you have to think about all of these things are sort of in one world. Think of the world as a mother, as a womb, as it were, charged with all different types of manna. So you have things like fire, you have things like earth, you have things like air, water, all of these things within this little globe, within the womb, which is what earth is. And so over time, the earth evolved, if you believe in that sort of thing, and it sort of gave us what we have here today. Now, like I said, it sort of, goes against the whole thing about how dragons believe the world was born, but dragons come from a different world, so they're entitled to their own beliefs, their own opinions. I'm simply talking to you in terms of manna and why manna is all inherently the same. Why? Because they all come from the same place. Think of manna and the different types of elements as family, as brothers and sisters, perhaps even spouses. Okay? Manna is not inherently different. Manna can have different types of behavior. You can have a sibling that is more active, a sibling that is more laid back, and a sibling that is perhaps in the middle. Manna sort of manifests itself in these physical ways, like lava, fire, or whatever. Plasma, if you want to go all scientific, even lightning is, I believe, a subcategory of what you guys, I believe, identify or understand as something that is fire, an element of fire, or perhaps an element of manna that is imbued within fire. You have things like earth and different types of earth. Things like water, the different types of water, and you see there are different types of water, believe it or not. And, of course, air. And air is everywhere, but sometimes the air is thicker, thinner, sometimes there are things in the air. And when air has, I believe, its own types of charges, its own types of currents and flows of air. These sorts of things, positive, negative, warm, cold, the different types of air. Temperature is another sort of thing. It is sort of a side effect, or I believe a sort of, what's the right word? Something that sort of comes from manna, so to speak, of things that emit certain types of manna. Okay, I know this sounds a bit lunacy, but you have to really think about it. The thing about manna and magic is that it is all based on perspective and what we're able to see and touch, and whether or not those things can qualify to our understanding within this world and how the laws work, magic or manna or whatever. So you have all of these different manna. Because we have things like air, fire, water, earth, we sort of attribute them as different elements. And on a sort of scientific level, because they have different sort of compositions, the chemical makeup is different. We sort of associate them as being different things. But in the realm of manna and magic, you have to understand that all manna comes from a specific source. You have manna that goes into certain things. Manna is sort of spiritual in its nature. You have the womb that is earth, and you have the things like water, fire, air, and earth. I'm sorry, but earth is pretty much what we name the planet. Well, what you guys name the planet. I came over here on a visa and travel programs. Hello, JetBlue. And so, yeah, it's sponsored. I'm just joking. It's not sponsored. It's perhaps never be sponsored. But I'm simply trying to help you understand this. So when it comes to something like this, each person that is born is given their own inherent spirit. That spirit itself is capable of generating or perhaps receiving manna from a specific source. Spirits themselves, wherever they come from, the other realm, the spirit realm, go through these rifts in time because they are coinciding with the law established within this realm. We have similar laws that are established within my realm as well that govern, that dictate certain spirits that go into certain types of people. But all spirits inherently are hubs of manna. However, in this world, because the amount of manna is diluted, our spirits require the aid of other spirits or perhaps spiritual forces in another place with more concentrated amounts of manna to then absorb and to sustain us through our life. So, manna is inherently the same because it all comes from a similar place. You have a brother, a sister, or perhaps multiple brothers and sisters. They all come from one person, perhaps your mother. Let's say your mother that had maybe 8, 7 children, maybe even more. Each person can have a completely different personality. Things like manna, things like the elements. But they all have the same blood. The sort of thing that ties them to one thing, to one source, to one beginning. That is how manna works in essence within our world, within our, globe. You can think of magic, or you can think of manna in these sort of different types of, different sort of subcategories like you could with elements, because elements are physically different and they can be chemically different, but they all originate within one planet, within one thing. In regards to, the studies and things you believe in, but they also can coincide and can cancel each other out. But you can do the same thing with siblings. You need to understand that all mana flows within nature in different ways, but it is all inherently mana, and you can all sort of absorb mana from different types of places. So you have people that sort of, get more energy when they are in water. They are more attuned to things like water mana. They are more, susceptible to the mana that is believed they get from the ocean. They're even taking a shower, washing your face in the morning. It gives you the jump start you need to, I believe, allow you to function properly throughout the day. There are some people that, need to sip a nice warm cup of coffee. There are certain elements of the heat that was transferred into their cup of coffee. Things like mana from heat and mana from the water. You have these sort of things melding together. So these are people that are inherently getting their mana from a physical substance. Now, coffee is something that is derived from earth, so you're inherently getting a diluted piece of mana from the earth itself. All of these things that we're getting, things like filtered water, even things like heat to a certain extent, when they are applied to something together and they are made into a concoction, and the reason why it gives you this thing is we can go into the whole thing about calories and everything else and things like magic and the effect it has on the human body. You are essentially absorbing the essence of whatever you're drinking. Mana works in the same manner with us as spirits. So you have certain people that, for example, they feel a great burst of energy when they're around plants, things like, green witches, people that use herbalists, things of that nature. They feel a connection to nature, a connection to the plant life. But nature inhabits many different types of things, not just plants. It inhabits things like fire, inhabits things like air, inhabits things like earth and water. The type of person needs to learn what it is that they get their energy from. I believe their boost of mana from. Okay, there are many people that they feel very energetic when the sun's out, because they are absorbing the energy from the sun. The sun itself is a giant ball of mana, and it is sending forth mana, the radiation, the light, okay, and heat. It is primarily heat, but because it is of a great size and intensity, it is able to fuel and sustain the earth that is requiring the mana it needs to function. And because we are inherently descendants and I believe products of that same world, of the same mother, to speak, for lack of a better term, we are essentially dependent on the amount of mana we are receiving from the sun, the amount of energy we are receiving. So we need to keep all of these things in mind. There are certain people that are energetic when it's raining outside. I, for one, for example, feel a great sense of calmness and peace, and sometimes gain energy whenever there's like storm clouds overhead, or perhaps, certain types of, rainy days. Like today, for example, I felt rejuvenated by the water and by the air. And so someone interpret that as me being a child of the specific element, someone being attuned to the elements, and yet that is partially correct. But because I'm also a person that communes with spirits, that is essentially my primary source. So when I am lacking the typical source of mana that my body, I believe, attunes to, I then have to rely on the spirits, which essentially supply the amount of mana we require, the amount of mana that we need on a daily basis. The spirits will regulate the amount of mana we have within our bodies to enable us to function properly within society. You need to understand what sort of element, I believe, can help give you the spark you need. But it is all mana. It is all mana. That is how we are all connected. There are people that gain their mana when their feet touch dirt and soil. You are grounded. And sort of, green witches or whatever, herbalists or whatever you identify as, sort of get this boost, sort of feel connection. But it is because your body, because of your type, and I don't want to get too into that, things like type, there's, borderline prejudice or whatever. There was a big thing in my room a long time ago about this certain study. The study came out approximately 2,000 years ago. I am a little bit iffy about it. I'm still on the whole spirit realm thing. But there are those people that feel a connection with the earth, with soil, with dirt specifically. There are other ones that get that from water. There are those that get that from fire. I sometimes get that as well. Am I a rarity? Perhaps. But it is probably because my body over time, because I've communed with spirits for the longest time, I can sort of learn how to absorb the different types of mana through the different types of elements, not just based on one. And if somehow my spiritual strength is lacking, or perhaps the amount of mana I have within my spirit is lacking, I would then have to fall back on the natural amount of mana I am able to acquire. It's one of these videos, but it is quite extraordinary and quite interesting when you think about this. The spirits, according to my beliefs in my realm, according to what I have observed and through what I have experimented with, are able to influence the elements, able to influence life on this planet. And because the life on this planet is dependent on mana, they in turn, being hubs of mana, impart the mana, in charge the atmosphere and the earth and the globe with that mana. And so many of us, because we are susceptible and because we ourselves are spirits, are able to absorb the mana from the spirits themselves and from the world because it is familiar to our spirits. And so the mana in spirits is something that is eternal. It is always there. So if you are lacking perhaps the ability to absorb mana, perhaps you are lacking the certain environment you require to take in that mana, the spirits are always around and the spirits are always present. Okay? So you have to know then, and this is where it gets into, which spirits you need to, I suppose, rely on in terms of mana. Your own spirit can sort of fall, I believe, deficient in mana. We require mana like people require things like vitamins or minerals and everything else. You know, it is sort of things that the body naturally requires. But our spirit is essentially what dictates the body. Our soul is inherently is the identity of the spirit. It is how we see ourselves. And so we need to understand then that the source of mana that we require cannot be bound to this, corporeal earth, this corporeal existence. It has to be beyond. And so many of us then employ the help and the communion of certain gods, deities, as I believe this covenant refers to them, as many covenants refer to them, to give us the things that we need. Now, there are sort of practical effects and practical needs that we require for certain deities. We assign certain aspects of our life, certain aspects of emotion, and even of nature to things like deities. So when you are inherently worshipping, or I believe devoting yourself, at least a piece of yourself, to a deity, you are essentially devoting yourself to the principle, to the spirit that embodies that. The spirit that embodies love, passion, strength, violence, even things like curses. And so you are inherently sort of communing with spirits when you're communing with nature and when you are attributing yourself to certain deities. This is where the risk comes in. And I have to stress this quite well. Spirits are in fact real. They are real things. People try to deny it. No. As real as you and me are, how we wake up in the morning, how we walk and everything else, even our personality, that is how spirits are. Spirits aren't just things that go through the ether. They aren't just physical manifestations of mana. They have mana within them, but they are not just simply mana. As they breathe out, as they exhale, they essentially produce mana in that fashion. Breathing to them is generating mana. And because we are in this existence, we are relying on their breathing, their sort of essence, just them existing in order for us to absorb that mana ourselves. And it can be quite potent. The issue is that there are certain people that are, and this can be quite controversial, this can cause arguments with things. I'm not going to name anything by name or anything else, but you have to keep in mind, those of us who I believe are relying on, and I count myself included, are relying on spirits, or even the essences of those spirits, to sustain us and to give us the things we want. You need to understand something specifically. In order for you, and I mentioned this before in the terms of the genie lamp and things like jinns. Jinns are inherently spirits. Deities function on the same manner. They are given the title deity because they are extremely powerful spirits. They are of the highest rank. And so when the spirit is of that strength, of that rank, it means that they sort of attain the title of God. They may not have, I suppose, the typical understanding of what a god is. But many different cultures have experimented with these sort of beings that come from a different dimension, which is a spirit realm, another dimension. That's what it is. And so they are communing with spirits. What I want to stress is that in order for you to get what you want, in order for you to, I suppose, sustain yourself, to, I believe, get the things that you ask for, you have your own rituals, you have your own practices, and these rituals and practices inherently call forth the spirits to act in your favor. There are certain things that have been done by ancestors or perhaps by other practitioners of the arts of magic or whatever, that was allowing them, enabling them to, I believe, get what it is they wanted. But they have to give something to the spirits or to the gods in return. Many times this was an act of obedience, an act of humility. Or perhaps they go through a ritual. Sometimes they burn incense because incense, it's a sort of way to transfer something from the physical to the spiritual. It essentially has perhaps a physical form, but as soon as it becomes vaporous, an imitation of air as we see it, It is sort of traversing into the realm of the spirit. And so they sort of can absorb this, smell this, sense this. So when it comes to something like spirits, even calling them by name can be extremely risky. I understand that many of us have specific practices, specific belief systems have been passed down to us from generations. However, and you need to understand this completely, in order to understand or know whether or not a spirit is trustworthy, they have to be tested. Spirits may not always like that, and some can become a bit violent because they want their anonymity. But I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. And so, yes, I just received a call from the scribe. It was something else, very mundane. But what I want to let you all know is that you need to understand the severity of these certain subjects. It can be it can be quite dangerous if we're not careful. And so when you are inherently invoking the name of a spirit or whatever name, you may not think it's a big thing. Many of you are starting out, many of you are perhaps new to this whole sort of thing. But spirits are real things. They are real things of energy. And so you have to understand that just because people have labels on spirits as being good, even things like gods, you can't take that to heart. You can't. You have to test them regardless. Okay? Because spirits can lie. They are inherently orbs of emotion. But spirits have intelligence. An evil spirit can lie to you. Can tell you, I am the person you are seeking, that you are communing with. Why they do it, they have their own means behind it, but they ultimately end up asking for something that you probably might be hesitant to give. You need to be very cautious with certain things. That is why you can't just invoke everything. But most people, from what I've seen and from what I've spoken in my research, attribute deities to things of nature. Nature itself, they are trying to commune with, and the earth itself is alive, and the earth itself has spirits within it. And there may, in fact, in theory, considering everything else I just mentioned, spirits that are living amongst us within the world itself that perhaps are governing the certain types of elements that are perhaps for the betterment of the planet and perhaps for humanity. So many people try to commune with those spirits. But, like I said, they have to be tested. You have to test yourselves and them, and you need to make sure that your spirit itself is strong, that you have certain abilities that allow you to discern whether or not these spirits are who they say they are. And because we ourselves are spirits, that is how we're able to feel them and sense them. And that is how we are able to know whether or not they are a spirit of peace or a spirit of violence or destruction. And so when we are seeking mana, when we are trying to absorb mana from the spirit realm, which is inherently eternal, and it can supply you all that you need, people over time, by communing with these spirits, by absorbing their mana, their demeanor begins to change. So if the spirit you are speaking to was a good spirit, the person can remain fine, they can be happy, they're going through life just normal as you first saw them, or they're happy or whatever. But people that have been communing with sort of negative spirits, with darker spirits, unbeknownst to them, because they won't just admit to themselves what they are, it's the same reason what I told you about jinns and their intentions. It functions on a similar level. When you have spirits of any kind, of any sort of disposition, any sort of identity, you need to be absolutely sure of who you are speaking with. And do not ask for the name inherently, because names inherently have power. When you speak a name of a specific spirit, you are essentially summoning them and their essence into your life, into your practice, into your home, or whatever you have built an altar, whatever. That is why you need to be extremely cautious. And you can tell whether or not a person has been communing with a spirit of, I believe, a more sinister intent. A person, let's say, for example, and I knew one time, told me that they sort of came across a spirit that, was whatever. And they spoke with the spirit a long time, many times. But then over time, the person started to develop certain characteristics that people weren't finding appealing. They would sort of let themselves go physically. Sometimes their clothing was affected. Their hygiene was affected. They started developing strange habits and appetites that was essentially destroying their body and changing their mind or warping it. There are some people that have a decent hold on it, and and they are able to, I believe, still keep their identity and their composure intact, even though they are relying upon the aid of a spirit of, I believe, a more darker inclination. So, when that happens, over time, a person can become perhaps a bit agitated on certain subjects or even certain things. They have a sort of animosity, if I believe that's the right word, or perhaps an antagonistic nature to certain topics, or perhaps to the names of other deities, or perhaps other spirits, or whatever it is. A person starts to develop certain emotions that I believe are not the best. They become a bit erratic, sometimes angry, or perhaps they become different from how they used to be. And this could be, in fact, an influence from whatever spirit they were communing with, or from whatever spirit perhaps cursed them at the behest of another person. A servant who is devoting to them, or perhaps a person of, a negative inclination. And there are those. You can't just assume, and yes, I know there's a stereotype that witches are devil worshippers. That is not correct. That is not true. Okay? That is like saying all Christians rape boys and children because the Catholics are technically Christians. Or perhaps that Buddhists are all the same. Even though technically there's a whole thing about Buddha being fat and versus a skinny one with the longest. And it goes on. There are people of every type, even in my own society, that walk darker paths. And so you have to be aware of who you are and where you're acquiring your mana from. So, without further more delay, I thank you all for listening to this video. Understand that this whole topic is quite great. I understand the controversy or perhaps the debatable nature of this topic in hand, but you have to keep this in mind. When I'm talking about spirits, when I'm talking about mana, these are sources that we rely on our day-to-day. There are people that don't commune with spirits, and there are people that are convinced they have no mana. But everything has mana, but not everyone or everything can perform magic. Magic is the effect that mana has on the user, that it is put into work. As mana flows, magic is being done. So, like I said, you need to be cautious and careful, okay? Forgive me if this sort of came out of nowhere, and forgive the weird sort of break in the video. Like I said, I had a sort of scry alert that sort of happened. I don't know why it did, but it did. And it was my fault for not doing it properly. Like I said, I'm still working on this whole technological thing, but it is a work in progress, as are we. So, I urge all of you to engage in safe practices in anything that you're doing, whether it be craft, whether it be magical, whether it be TV, carving, sex. Make sure you're operating in the utmost safety. Make sure that, you are being kind to one another, kind to your brothers. You keep locking a cage. If you have your mother blocked on your number, then unblock her. Call her once in a while. Hello, mother, how are you? I know, they like to talk a lot. It is something that even I struggle with from time to time. Grandmas, you can keep blocked. Unless you have a good fellow grandma. Mine's a little, like me. But, she's way out there sometimes. But I love her dearly. She is still family. And she's a person that has a similar manner to my own, believe it or not. So, be kind, be loved, as you are by Pahalu. Remember that the world isn't as bad as we see it. Do not pay attention to everything you see on TV. Believe it or not, these sort of things, whatever you're watching, can sort of imbue mana through the air. Believe things like technology are inherently hubs of mana, and they are working with mana. And so the effect they have on people is evidence of the type of mana they are producing, the type of magic they are working. I'm not saying that TVs are boxes of the devil. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that be mindful and cautious. There are spirits in our realm, as are in the other one, and they are influences of mana and even of nature. If they can sort of create titans, horrible things in nature, they can certainly do worse through any other means, whether technological or basic, as all of you are. So, I'm so happy. I love you all. Remember that I love you. I care for you deeply. Thousands of kisses. And remember that Pahalu loves you. I love you. You have a family here among us, all of us. And to always keep in mind that when it comes to the type of mana you are looking for, the type of mana that you want to receive, look first inward, look first around you, and the spirit should be a last resort. Strengthen yourself, your spirit. Understand what it is that gives you the strength you need, and understand that above everything else, kindness and love can sustain you. And if you feel as though you don't have anyone to talk to, Pahalu is always available. Goodbye, everyone. And please, I urge all the men here, all my mushrooms, when you decide to sleep naked, please be careful. how you roll and how you wake up in the morning, okay? Goodbye, everyone!